Hello everyone, you're listening to the Eiffel Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G. This is a show all about Paris, currently being recorded from my very small apartment in Montmartre, but how could you complain? There aren't many places in the world I'd rather be locked down than in the center of Montmartre in Paris, but we'll talk about that a little bit later today. Before we begin, I want to say this show is brought to you by the Patreon supporters and no one else. The Patreon supporters who, thanks to their small monthly pledge, become members and help me do this as a career, really. So thanks to all you guys who've signed up lately. Patreon.com/the Eiffel Tower. Loads of perks, including the audiobook every day. I'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But particularly, I want to send this episode out to new subscribers, including Megan Raw. Thanks for signing up. And to Emil Johansson in Sweden, whose girlfriend says he's the coolest and kindest person I know. I'm so lucky to be with him. That's a very nice thing to say. More about all that, well, not so much about Emil and his girlfriend Sandra, more about Patreon and the audiobook and all that kind of stuff at the end of the episode. Let's talk about today's topic, which is Paris restaurants. And you're going to hear the voice of a friend of the show and a friend of mine, Guy Griffin. He runs the Café Oberkampf and Café Mericourt. If you've been listening to this show for any period of time, you'll have heard his voice on it. We talk a little bit about our background together in this episode, actually, but he's been on a bunch of episodes. I've had events at his cafes, and he even took part in the latest pub quiz, in which he did pretty well, I gotta say. In fact, he hinted that in the next pub quiz, he might write a section and offer a prize. If you don't know what I'm talking about, every Saturday, 8 p.m, Paris pub quiz live on YouTube. But that's not the topic, it's restaurants. I was really interested in what's going to happen to the Paris restaurants as we come out of this lockdown, what's happening with them now, and what the future will be like for them. So I gave Guy a Zoom call down where he is in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, beautiful town in the south of France, and we have a little bit of chat about it. So we talked about, his rethinking of the hospitality industry, how his staff are surviving, and how the days of Paris cafes are going to be a little bit different in the future. A few little notes. If you want to find his cafes, their websites and their Instagram, check them in the show notes. I've linked them all there. And the other thing, we talk about a tromp-l'oeil. Some people call it a tromp-l'oeil. We actually call it the same thing in English, but it's an art technique that uses realistic imagery to create an optical illusion. Wondering what we're talking about? Hey, I am too, but it comes in halfway through the episode, so now you know too. That's about it. Guy from Café Oberkampf and Café Mericourt. Check them out, and I'll talk to you again at the end. Let's do it. Guy Griffin, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Oli.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm all right. It sounds to me, by the echo in your voice, that you're in a small town in France somewhere and not in the hustle and bustle.
What a great ear. I'm lucky enough to be in the south of France at my mum's place in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence.
Okay, before we talk about anything, we need to address this, because that is one of the most beautiful towns. Can we call it a town? Village? What is it?
I think it's a town. Yeah, it's a town.
Do you think it's more beautiful than Annecy?
I've never been to Annecy. It's very different, though. I mean, we're in the middle of the Alpes. It's Provence. So the whole... I grew up... There's part of my life I was spent in the south of France. So it means the smells, the lavender, the trees and the romarin, the rosemary and stuff like that. All that brings back lots of memories. For me, it's one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
What did you say at first when you said the LP? You're in the middle of the LP or something? What did you say?
Les Alpes. So it's Les Alpes is sort of like the small, they're quite low mountains that surround this region.
Oh yeah, it's like Alp with ILLES at the end, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the small Alps.
Yeah. Oh, that's very sweet. And yes. Have you done that Vincent van Gogh walk where you follow those little plaques on the road?
Not on purpose, but there are some when you walk around Saint-Rémy, you just walk. There's going to be a bronze plaque on the floor, and it's like, yeah, this is Vincent van Gogh's walk. So you actually, you've been walking through it. But I've not done. No, I'm not a very good tourist in general. No,
but that's fair enough because you're there all the time.
Yeah. I've known this place for ages.
And people will probably be thinking, are you, Guy, among the 20% who, in inverted commas, fled Paris?
I didn't know it was 20. I thought it was more than that. But no. So I was here for my daughter's birthday, We were here when it was the whole confinement was announced. So we were just like, well, we're just going to stay here. And we live in a small apartment in Paris. And so it just seemed logical to stay here where we have family to help out. And just, it's legit. Yeah, it was just more logical to stay here. So no, we didn't flee on purpose, but we didn't go back either to Paris on purpose.
What's your thought about the 20% or more people who did leave under the cover of darkness for their country houses?
I mean, in that situation, you have to be a bit selfish, don't you? So I sort of understand it. Like, if you are, I mean, I can see how challenging it is, even in the conditions I'm in, to have a really young child and like have the child all day and find, like, my daughter's 2, she has an attention span of 10 minutes. So it's like at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're looking at your watch and you're like, oh my God, it's only 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I can't even imagine what it's like. What would it be like to do that in a really small apartment in Paris and things like that? So, and then those who are going there just for going to the beach, then you're sort of like, okay, that's not okay. And I feel bad for the people that actually live in those towns that find themselves surpopulated.
Let's talk first for people who are maybe new to this podcast. You and I go way back.
Yeah.
I think you were either on the first or definitely one of the first walk shows I ever did. Do you remember that?
I think I was the first.
Yeah, because I put all the effort into it and we did a sign and everything like that. Do you remember that? We had...
we talked about it a lot as well.
You would remember the date, I'm sure, because it was right before Mericourt opened.
Oh, I remember the month. So it was like, I think it was April 2017.
Goodness me. Wow.
Yeah, I think it must be because I hadn't quite got the keys because we'd actually faked the thing and pretended it was actually just my keys. So I signed, but I hadn't had the keys yet. It was. I signed in April, so it must have been April 2017.
Wow. So we go back to at least then, and that kind of brings us into the real topic of today. As much as I'd love to talk about Saint-Rémy de Provence all day, the topic is being in the restaurant industry. The food industry, cafes. You've got 2, Oberkampf and Mericourt. Maybe give us an idea of where you feel things are at right now.
So it's a massive muddle in all our... I think I can speak for most of the restaurateurs where it's like a massive muddle. Like in our heads, it's going all over the place because we don't have that much information. We're just fed bit by bit and nothing concrete. So it's just speculation for now. So... a lot of us are just having to rethink our whole business plan and our whole actual strategy on what we consider the hospitality industry and what it's going to become, and whether we want to work in that industry now. That was one of the thoughts that went through my mind. Is like, well, with the projections that we're making and the speculations, do I want to continue working in the restaurant industry? But then you also look at what's going around and in other countries and everything. And France has been very lucky that the government had done so much to try and keep us alive until we really know what's going on.
Well, can we talk about that for a second? Like, I've seen a few news reports, and I never understand whether these are promises or whether they've actually followed through. If I put myself, let's say I was one of your waiters, what would I be doing now? Am I getting money from the government?
Yeah. So what's happening is that everyone's on chômage partiel. So the government is paying 84% of their net salary, but it doesn't mean that the cafes are compensating for the other, the rest of that amount. The restaurants put it up front, and then we get paid back later. So staff-wise, it's not costing us anything to actually keep all our staff.
Does that mean, like, if you, I assume you're not one of the struggling restaurants in Paris, of course, but I imagine there are many of them in Paris, hardly making ends meet. How would they have the money to pay the staff up front?
Well, I think it's been a struggle for most of us, like depending on. If you're an independent restaurateur, it's a struggle for, I reckon, like 90% of us. Like all the people that are in my WhatsApp groups and stuff like that, it's been a struggle for almost all of them. And so the banks have just been, personally, my bank's been amazing. Like they've just like said, yeah, okay, it will pass through. We know the government had made these promises, so we know that we're going to get the money back.
Yeah.
And then they knew that all these loans are going to go through. So the state have set up these loans that are at 0% for the first year. And so we've all been taking on extra loans to be able to anticipate not only this confinement, but also the few months that follow, like the 3-6 months that are going to follow, where business will maybe take off quite slowly.
Right. And then if we go back to me being one of your waiters, am I right to think that I'd just be on holiday? It's not holiday, but I don't have any responsibility?
That's what I would have thought. You're sort of paid to watch Netflix and chill out and stuff like that. But then they're in confinement, so they're like, you're not on holiday. You're on holiday maybe for the first few days, and then so you have that feeling, and then also 84% in the restaurant industry, salaries aren't very high. So 84% of your salary is better than nothing, but sometimes it's like it makes the month a bit of a struggle because you still have your rent, you still have to buy food, you still you're still consuming. And then like most of my staff, because now we're starting to communicate because we can see the end of the tunnel. So I'm sort of like saying, hi guys, this is what I'm going through, like mentally, like these are the questions I'm asking myself about opening, not opening, how, why, when. And all of them are saying, well, we can't wait to come back to work.
Right.
Like there's 15 of us and there's not been one person that said, I feel a bit easier about coming back to work, or I'd rather not. All of them have said, I want to come back to work. I'm really looking forward to seeing.
That's cool. And you guys have staff who are fun and energetic and seem happy to be there anyway. So it doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
I think there's a good work environment. Everyone gets on really well and they're all friends, and like I think most of them hang out after work and stuff. So there is that environment. Not only they're not happy to start working again, but they're happy to see each other.
Do you get invited to those hangouts after work, or is there?
No, not anymore. But fair enough. For one, I'm not the same age group anymore, and for two, I'm not much fun anymore either. So
no, guys. Let's talk about the light at the end of the tunnel that you mentioned. A lot of people are probably familiar with this May 11th date that's been thrown around. Can we expect the cafes to be open 9 a.m. May 12th?
Well, not us. Not us, because I want to open, but I don't want to open under any conditions. I really want to think about how we're going to do this. So May 11th is deconfinement for everyone, apart from we're not allowed to open our restaurants. So that's where it's been a bit tricky to figure out the actual strategy, because a lot of places have already opened and are doing takeaway with Deliveroo, Uber Eats. Everyone's starting to do click and collect. So a lot of people have, or e-shops and things like that. So people have been, as they're starting to have opened like weeks ago. They were still going. My offer wasn't really adapted to that. So I'm going to have to rethink our whole strategy. And I may open end of May just to do a bit of takeaway in one of the three of them. But
hang on, one of the three of them? What's the third one?
We opened a cater. We opened Cuisine Mericourt, which is
I knew that.
So like a catering test kitchen sort of thing. Yeah, I'm waiting for the announcement that's going to be end of May. So the government are going to announce an opening date for the restaurants end of May. So I'm really waiting for that date to see when and under what conditions we're allowed to open. Because when you look abroad, it's like really scary. Like you see restaurants with like 1 to 2 meters apart, like tables that are 1 to 2 meters apart. Some have plexiglass in between. You have to take people's temperatures when they walk through the door. So all that changes the whole vision of what I saw as being hospitality. So is that what I want to do? Or do I have to rethink my strategy? Do I rethink my business plan? All that.
Well, what do you think about like when many people think Paris cafes and your cafes and restaurants, they're not typically Parisian, like big terraces. When you think of those places, that it seems to me like that's fundamentally not going to work anytime soon. Seats close to each other and so on. No, because and also so I've calculated that I'm going to lose 40% of my seating capacity in the cafe if I do respect that one every second table, etc., etc.
And so I'm going to have to rethink the whole strategy of, I can't afford, if I have minus 40%, I can't afford to someone to come in and just have a cookie and an espresso, which beforehand I would have been very happy. We're here to cater for everyone. How much you spend it's not a problem. So we're going to have to rethink that. And I think brasseries are going to have to do the same. I mean, then they won't be able to afford for someone just to sit in a terrace for 5 hours with an espresso, reading the paper, drawing, reading their books, which was what part of French culture beforehand. And I don't know if that's gonna survive, or even that whole bar culture where you just go up to the bar and have a smash of coffee, like you're like a shoulder to shoulder and barging through to just try and order something. That's not going to exist anymore.
I tell you what's definitely not going to exist: people sitting on their laptops in cafes.
No, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So maybe it's good for the whole co-working industry that completely like crashed recently. Maybe there's going to be a revival of co-working because, no one's going to. I can't have computers anymore in there because unless you charge them, so that's one of the ideas. Is like, yes, you can come in, but we charge you per hour, or you have to order a minimum of this amount.
You could have I've heard stories of really cool new memoirs coming out by young Paris writers. You could have copies of them and sell them to people in a bit.
I mean, you have to buy at least one book before sitting down. I mean, if ever you have any people you're thinking about, like any suggestions of those sort of writers, just you can tell me.
I'll have a good think about it. I there's one on the tip of my tongue, but I can't get back to. I'll get back.
I can't think of anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've got to sort of wind things up here, but there's two things I want to touch on. One is you have a very beautiful background behind you.
Yeah.
In a bid to encourage listeners to go and look on Instagram, can I take a screenshot of us both here?
Yeah, totally. Okay, just so people know, that is actually it's what you call a tromp-l'oeil. So it's not really the outside.
Trompe-l'oeil, is that like what's the word in English? Like where it's a trick.
Trick eye. The translation's trick eye, but that's not how you say it, is it?
There is a word for it in English. But anyway, I'm going to take maybe smile or something for once in this interview.
Yeah, sorry, I've been being grumpy.
All right, I think I got it. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to finish on is one thing that you're looking forward to doing when you get back to Paris and things are back to normal.
Personally or professionally?
You personally, Guy Griffin, the man, the myth, the legend.
So it is actually just like walking around the neighborhood again. I like, with this confinement, you sort of realize I'm not looking forward to taking public transport and things like that because it's going to be very weird.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to I love my neighborhood and just going around and seeing all familiar faces, checking in on people. And just like not supporting local industry. It is supporting in one way, but it's not just financially, but also just like being there for one another. Yeah, just like reinforcing that sense of community. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I'm sure when you get back to the trendy 11th, where your community is, that you will be welcomed with open arms.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, me too. And I look forward to seeing you down there for a coffee before too long.
Yeah, we can meet halfway, and that means neither of us have to take the public transport.
Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for you to open a cafe up somewhere near Pigalle, Montmartre, just because I think that'd be a really good area. Yeah,
so there was a new project that was in the pipeline, and desperately trying to get out of that now, because now this is a whole new industry and so much unknown of what we're going into. And so I think we all just need to really focus on what we're doing and not thinking of expanding or because it's just like it's professionally it's scary, but also in an exciting way. It's like like, okay, this is a new challenge, but also it's like, oh my god, do I know what I'm doing now?
You know what, Guy, we need to have a good old brainstorm over a coffee together, I think.
Yeah, totally, because it's really hard to get out of your own bubble, you know? I suppose it's the same when you're writing. Like sometimes it's just good to actually tell other people what the little voices in your head are saying.
For sure. I remember you helped me with my podcast planning once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I came in for a coffee once by myself. It was the end of the day or something. You're like, just tell me. tell me what's going on. And I was like, yeah. And then you listen and you're like, do this, Oliver. And look where it all, it went straight down for like 6 months after that. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you for checking in. It's lovely to hear from you and see you as well.
I did realize there's one other thing that I'm not sure how much we should reveal, but thank you for your contribution to my audio experience as well. Are we revealing which character you played, or is that a mystery for people to figure out?
Maybe it can be a competition. Like if someone actually figures it out, they get like a free breakfast or something like that. Or it can
let's start with the free coffee.
Okay.
First person to figure out who Guy was in the audiobook gets a free coffee on Guy, or
no, totally on me.
It's on Guy. There you go, everybody. And there's some incentive to check out not just the cafe but the audio experience as well. Guy, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good luck with the last stretch.
Yeah. Well, you too, eh?
Yeah. See you on the other side. Thanks so much, Ollie.
So there you have it, Guy from Café Mericourt, Café Oberkampf, and I guess interesting times for the cafe and restaurant scene in Paris. There'll be more. I'll be talking more about this in a coming episode with food and restaurant writer and critic Alec Lombardo. More on that in an upcoming episode. But interesting story from Guy. We'll see how that goes. As I said in the episode, be sure to go and check them out as they start to reopen. Say hi to Guy if you see him, or indeed to his lovely staff members. So, changing topic a little bit to that audiobook we mentioned in the show. If you're new around here and you don't know what I'm talking about, I wrote a memoir about the past 5 years in Paris. Just sort of an interesting time to be in this city, and if I do say so myself, a pretty fun story of going from being a journalist, coming here covering terror attacks, to running a podcast that turned into a job and got featured in the New York Times. So I kind of wrote a little book about that, and it's the reviews have been great. It's out. I'm going to read you a review now that came through on Goodreads. I might read some of these in future episodes too, but just to give you an idea, this is from David Lehman. It's a longer review, but in the middle he wrote, "Being a supporter of the podcast," thanks David, "I bought the book more as a show of support as opposed to expecting a great read." Here we go. What's this gonna say? After all, Oliver talks for a living, not writes. Correct? Well, I was wrong. This is great, fast-moving account of 5 years in Paris where the author started from nothing immediately after the 2015 terror attacks with no friends. Come on, David. Oh no, I did say that. No friends, and ending with a wonderful wife, a career, and a home in Paris. This book is well written, reflects Oliver's self-awareness, good humor, and high emotional IQ. If you want to go for a fast-paced, fun ride in Paris and actually around France, read this book. You won't be sorry. Thank you so much, David, for that review. The reason I read this review is, maybe you do think I'm just a podcaster who scribbled together a quick book. No, I really put a lot of effort into this. I put all my effort into it. So go and check it out. You can find it at theeiffeltower.com/memoir, unless, of course, you're in the United States, where you can go to theeiffeltower.com/US, and it'll be cheaper because we can ship it out of California now. So, speaking of California, I'll be doing Zoom chats with Alliance Françaises all over the country. I've already done one with Boston. I've got ones coming in Portland, Dallas, LA, Miami, and more. I'm going to put them all on a nice page on the site, but follow me on social media to find that stuff if you want to come and have a Zoom chat with me and whoever they'll put there to interview me. That's been pretty fun so far. Also, the audiobook, what I'm doing, partly to get me through this lockdown, but partly because I wanted to do it anyway, is every day I'm reading the book, Paris on Air, and turning it into an audio experience. Lots of sound effects. The characters are all reading their lines. Guy from today's episode was one of the characters who I obviously shan't reveal. And I put out in sort of 15-20 minute segments every day at 6 p.m. for all you members. At the end of it, I'll sell it, of course, but this is my way of sort of giving a little extra benefit for the people who are kind enough to sign up to this show. But also, on a personal level, it's been a really interesting project to get through this lockdown and have something, some kind of structure to the day. And I think I'm going to look back on it with fond memories, much as I'll look back on the book with similar memories. Anyway, check that out. You can find more about it at patreon.com/theeiffeltower. That'll do it for me. I'm looking forward to sharing more episodes with you in the coming days, weeks, and months, and perhaps I'll see you on YouTube for the pub quiz on Saturday night. Merci beaucoup, au revoir, and thanks for listening.
I don't really know where we are. I just want